You're in the break room. It's 9:14 in the morning. You got there first, which felt like a win. Get the coffee, get out. Then Daniel from accounting walks in. You've spoken to Daniel maybe 6 times in 2 years. You know his name. He knows yours. That's the entire relationship. He opens the fridge. You stare at the coffee machine like it's doing something fascinating. The silence has been going for about 4 seconds now, and something in your chest is already tightening because you know that if you don't say something in the next 2 seconds, it becomes a different kind of silence, the kind that means something. So you say, "Monday, am I right?" and immediately hate yourself for it. Daniel makes a sound that might be a laugh. You grab your mug before the coffee is fully done and walk out faster than any reasonable person would. You spill a little on the way. You don't go back for a napkin. For the next 20 minutes at your desk, you run the tape back. You think about what you could have said. Something about the project, something about the weekend, anything that a normal person would have said without needing to rehearse it beforehand. You had nothing. Your brain, which works perfectly well in every other context, produced nothing. You've watched the videos, you've read the articles, ask open-ended questions, show genuine curiosity, mirror their body language. You tried it. It felt like wearing someone else's clothes. The other person could tell, you could tell they could tell, and that was somehow worse than the silence, because what happened in that break room has an explanation, and once you hear it, the way you see yourself in those moments will never be quite the same. The moment Daniel walks in, a part of your brain called the amygdala, think of it as your internal threat scanner, activates. Not because Daniel is dangerous, not because you dislike him, but because the situation is unpredictable. You don't know how long he's staying. You don't know what he expects from you. You don't know how the next 30 seconds are going to go. And your brain, which has one job above all others, treats unpredictability the same way it treats danger. So it shifts into what researchers call a threat monitoring state. It starts scanning, watching, calculating. Is this safe? What does this person want? What is the right move here? And while it is doing all of that, while it is running every variable in the background, the part of your brain responsible for spontaneous, natural conversation goes almost completely offline. A survival circuit doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is it was built for a different world, a world where unpredictable meant something genuinely at stake. Your brain hasn't caught up to the fact that Daniel from accounting is not a threat. It only knows, unfamiliar, unscripted, uncertain, and it responds accordingly. The harder you try to think of something to say, the worse it gets. Effort requires conscious processing, and conscious processing is happening in the same crowded space where your threat scanner is already running at full capacity. You are trying to have a conversation in a room where an alarm is going off. Of course, nothing comes out right. This is also why the generic advice has never worked for you. Just be curious. Ask open-ended questions. Be present. Those instructions assume your brain is in a neutral state and simply needs direction. When the threat monitoring circuit is active, curiosity isn't available on demand. Presence isn't available on demand. It's like telling someone to enjoy the view while they're trying not to drown. So if the advice was never the problem, what is? Put you in a room with one person you trust. Give you a topic that interests you. Give you 10 minutes. What happens? You talk easily, naturally. You make connections. You ask real questions. You follow threads. You say things that surprise even you sometimes. The conversation doesn't feel like a performance. It feels like thinking out loud with someone who gets it. That is the same brain, the same wiring. Nothing about you changed between those 2 rooms. A particular type of situation, short, unscripted, low familiarity, no clear exit, triggers the threat monitoring circuit before you've had a chance to settle. The alarm goes off before the conversation even begins. And once it's going, the part of you that is actually articulate, actually interesting, actually capable of real connection, that part is locked out. The first 15 seconds of a conversation with someone your brain hasn't yet filed as safe. That is the specific thing that breaks down. Only that. Narrow the problem that far, and it stops feeling like a personality deficit. The people who look effortless in those moments, the ones who say something easy and warm to Daniel and make it look like nothing, they are not more interesting than you. What they have is a shorter runway. Their threat scanner quiets down faster because they have more evidence that these interactions tend to go fine. Dozens of small data points, each barely noticeable on its own, that together train their brain to lower the alarm a little sooner. That evidence is collectible, and there is one tool that makes it possible to start even before the alarm goes quiet, even when you're standing there, blank, reaching for your phone. Here is what that tool is. The tool is called an observation opener. An observation opener is noticing something that is already present in the environment you are both standing in and saying it out loud, not something clever, not something impressive, not a question you've rehearsed or a compliment you've manufactured. Just a true, low-stakes observation about the world directly in front of you. When the threat monitoring circuit fires, it shuts down the parts of your brain that generate original thought, creativity, wit, curiosity. All of it requires cognitive resources your brain is currently spending on threat assessment. Observation is different. Observation doesn't require you to generate anything. It only requires you to notice what is already there. And noticing is something you can do even when every other system is locked down. You are already doing it. You're standing there noticing the coffee machine, noticing the silence, noticing Daniel. The observation opener just gives that noticing somewhere to go. Here's what it looks like in practice. You're in the break room. The coffee machine finishes its cycle. Daniel walks in. Instead of reaching for your phone, you say, "Takes forever in the morning." That's it. You don't need to follow it up with anything. You don't need to have a second line ready. You put one true observation into the air and let it land. You're in the elevator with someone from a different floor. It's slower than it should be. You say, "Always takes longer when you're in a hurry." Not a joke, not a performance. The thing you were already thinking. The other person nods, or they don't, and either way, you did the thing. You're waiting for a meeting to start, and there are only two of you in the room, and the projector is doing that thing where it cycles through colors before connecting. You say, every time, every single time. The other person knows exactly what you mean, because they are staring at the same thing. You didn't invent a topic. You borrowed one from the room. You're at the gym. Someone finishes on the machine next to you right as you were about to ask for it. You say, "Good timing." 2 words. The interaction is over in 4 seconds, but your brain just filed one more data point that this kind of moment is survivable. This won't work every single time. Some people won't respond. Some silences stay silent. That is not failure. That is just weather. The threat monitoring circuit activates when a situation feels unscripted and uncertain. The observation opener removes the unscripted part entirely. You are reporting, describing what is in front of you in plain language. That requires almost nothing from the parts of your brain that are currently offline. It slides under the alarm instead of trying to outrun it. Every time you use one and the interaction goes fine, even neutrally fine, even just a small nod and a half smile, your brain files that away. One more data point, one more piece of evidence that this type of situation is survivable, that Daniel from accounting is not a threat, that the break room is not a minefield. Slowly, not overnight, the alarm starts firing a little later, then a little quieter, then sometimes not at all. You are not changing your personality. You are updating your brain's threat assessment with real evidence. You start with the coffee machine, then the elevator, then the meeting room. Small, specific, true, and one day, without quite noticing when it happened, you will realize that Daniel walked in and you said something and it cost you nothing. And that moment cost you nothing, which means the thing you have spent years believing, that other people got something you didn't, was never true. What those people have is a longer history of low-stakes interactions that went fine. That is the entire difference. Not charisma, not confidence, not some trait you either have or you don't, just accumulated evidence. And evidence is something you can collect starting today in the break room with one sentence about a coffee machine. You were never missing the ability, you were missing the entry point. Now you have one.